When I was 11, there was a dog who slept under our porch. He was old, slow, and missing fur in patches. No one knew where he came from. The neighbors called him a problem. I called him Bear. Bear never barked. He just waited. Every afternoon when I got home from school, he'd lift his head and thump his tail once against the wood, like that was all the energy he had. I started bringing him water, then leftovers. Then, eventually, I'd sit beside him and talk about my day. My family didn't notice him at first. We were busy dealing with our own problems. Late bills, arguments whispered behind closed doors, the kind of tension that makes a house feel smaller than it is. But one day, my dad saw Bear and said he couldn't stay. Animals meant responsibility, and we were already stretched thin. So I stopped feeding Bear openly. I'd wait until everyone went to bed, then sneak outside with scraps wrapped in napkins. I worried constantly that he'd wander off, or worse, that someone would call animal control. Every morning I checked the porch, afraid he wouldn't be there. One week, Bear disappeared. I pretended not to care, but the porch felt empty, too quiet. Then, 3 days later, he came back, thinner, limping. He curled up in the same spot like he'd never left. I sat next to him and cried into his fur, realizing how close I'd come to losing him without ever really having him at all. That's when my parents noticed. Not just Bear, but me. How I spent my time, how careful I was, how I'd changed. We talked, really talked. And for the first time, they listened. Bear didn't become our dog overnight, but he stayed. Slowly, naturally, like he belonged there all along. He lived out his days under that porch, warm, fed, and loved. Bear never did much. He didn't fetch. He didn't guard the house. But he taught me something important, that sometimes saving someone isn't about big gestures. Sometimes it's about showing up quietly, every day, and choosing not to walk away. And somehow, in doing that for him, I saved a part of myself too.